Hi, I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and in today's video I have a question from a viewer, from a customer. Okay, so this was a private question, so I'm not going to give the name, but she says that, I'm just going to skip through some of the personal stuff. Watching my videos, it all makes perfect sense. I've actually suffered from constipation all of my life. Maybe this is the root cause. And then she goes on with some more personal stuff. But at the end of the message, she says, I'm also considering the plant-based eating thing, but I'm overwhelmed when I think about it and not sure where to begin. So I thought I would talk a little bit about this because I know for myself personally, I spent an entire year contemplating this idea of trying a plant-based diet, and I kept telling myself over and over and over, like she says, too overwhelming, too extreme, it just never going to happen, because I've tried diets before and I've never been able to stick to a diet for more than 3 seconds, so I knew that a diet this extreme surely would be too hard, so why even set myself up for that kind of failure? And it ended up being completely the opposite. It ended up being not that hard at all. It ended up being very simple, very enjoyable. And then I started to get the benefits from it as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and just some suggestions on where you can get started. And everybody's going to be different. Some people kind of dabble here and there when they're getting started. Other people jump in, full throttle. Some people like to put together a whole plan before they get started. I myself did have a plan, and there's kind of 3 things that I want to share with you that I think were the keys to my personal success, and things that I think are very important that I see that occur in other people who are vegan, who are on a strict plant-based diet, and who have done it for a long period of time. For me, I've been on it for over 5 years. I've done it very strictly, very faithfully, very successfully. I lost a lot of weight. I kept the weight off, with the exception of I moved back to Astoria last year, and I have put on a couple of pounds, but that's more because I've been eating out at restaurants every day and I haven't been exercising. I did just start exercising this week, so I'm back on that exercise train, so that's good. So 1, constipation. It is really important if you're reversing your hiatal hernia. It's important for everybody to address constipation. We don't want to be backed up. We don't want all of that extra pressure. We don't want the food sitting around in our digestive tract for extended periods of time. So it's not something you should just, think, oh, it's not that big a deal, which the majority of the population does. So many people are constipated, and the definition of constipation is having to bear down in order to pass a bowel movement. Some people think constipation means they don't go that often. Maybe they only go 2 or 3 times a week or every other day. And that's constipation. That is constipation. But if you're going even every day and you're having to bear down, that's constipation as well. Things should move with a bit of ease. They shouldn't have to strain in order to pass a bowel movement. And so my first recommendation to anybody that has constipation and they're wanting to really clear it up, not just manage it with a daily supplement like a Metamucil or something like that. They really want to clear it up, is to try a plant-based diet. For me, that's what got things moving extremely regularly, extremely frequently. In other words, on a daily basis, if not multiple times a day, that's my first recommendation, is to try a plant-based diet. Now, does this clear up constipation for everybody? No, probably not. There may be some other issues that need to be addressed as well. And one that was actually just brought up before I came on this live, I got a message from a follower that I haven't talked to in a long time. He just kind of keeps in touch with me. He recently started using a magnesium supplement, and that's been very helpful for him. And magnesium is one of those things that so many people are low on or deficient in. And so I think it's a great idea to try a magnesium supplement to see if that can get things moving along a little bit as well. So what I'm going to do today, there's basically the 3 keys to my success were education, inspiration, and motivation. So I really did spend about a year kind of dabbling and learning about plant-based nutrition before I actually did what I called a 30-day challenge or a 30-day experiment on my own body. That's how I approached my husband, because I knew he was probably not going to be too excited about the idea, particularly because he was the cook in our family at that time. So I spent a year really educating myself, and there's a lot of ways you can do that. I've got a few books here that I'm going to share. I'm going to share these books, the titles of these books. I'm not going to link these below, so you might want to grab a pencil if you want to write these down. They're great, great, great resources, not only because they have great recipes in them, because there's so much great information in here that's really going to help you go, yeah, I can see how that would work. Yeah, I can see how a plant-based diet would be a really healthy way to go. Yeah, I can see how maybe this is the best way that human beings are specifically supposed to eat. You start to make these connections, and it just gives you more and more, I don't know, it just makes you more and more at ease about the whole idea of eating plant-based. And there's also, you know, recipes in all of these books as well. And these aren't cookbooks, they just have, well, one of them is, they just have the recipes in them. They have recipes in them. Oh, I've got more here. So I got a stack here, so I don't want to do that one. We'll get going. So education, inspiration, and motivation. The inspiration can come from these books as well, because sometimes there's, you know, testimonials in here. But online, you can hear great stories. You can follow vegan YouTubers and hear their stories of how they overcame and healed multiple conditions on a plant-based diet, not just constipation. I myself, if you followed me, you know that I overcame rheumatoid arthritis, hidradenitis suppurativa, chronic fatigue, chronic allergies and asthma that I've had my entire life, and GERD. So I went on the plant-based diet for my GERD specifically. All that other stuff I'd been suffering with my whole life, and while I wanted to overcome those things, I'd really come to a place where I just thought that was the life that, the hand that life had dealt me, and was just trying to make the best of it. I didn't think I could heal from all of those things. I went on the plant-based diet for my GERD, and it got a lot better, but then the belching, the indigestion, and the nausea continued. So it wasn't until I reversed my hiatal hernia that those things then went away completely as well. But I'm still plant-based because, well, for a lot of reasons, but primarily because I feel so amazing. I would never go back to eating any other way. So, and then motivation. So education, inspiration, and motivation. And going back to the inspiration thing, that is so key, because once you get started on a diet, there's going to be road bumps, right? There's going to be challenges. Things are going to happen. Maybe you'll travel, maybe you'll have a death in the family, maybe, you know, you'll move, maybe, you know, you'll change jobs, maybe you'll just get tired of the food that you're eating. Maybe you'll go to one potluck, you know, and just say, screw the diet, I'm just not going to do it anymore. All of these things can come up, but if you are pouring inspiration into your life on a regular basis, that's going to keep you sticking with the diet. And if you keep educating yourself, not only about the health benefits of plant-based nutrition, but about the benefits to the environment. Factory farming is one of the #1 contributors to global warming. And then, you know, when you're not participating in, you know, if you're not buying meat, dairy, and eggs, then you're not participating in factory farming, right? You're not part of that supply and demand that's creating that demand for all of those products, which means all of these animals will be bred into existence just so that they can be killed, so that you can have food, which isn't necessary. We don't need meat, dairy, and eggs to be healthy. So we can get everything we need from a plant-based diet. Just about everything we need. There are some exceptions to that. Vitamin B12 is a microbe in the soil, and our soil is becoming more and more deplete of that. So I personally do supplement with vitamin B12, but that's it. That's it. So Yeah, and I was talking about magnesium before. You may find that you're getting all the magnesium you need on a plant-based diet, and you don't need to supplement with it for the constipation, especially if you're eating plenty of fruit. When I first started my plant-based journey, I ate a lot of fruit, and I had no issues with constipation. Everything was just flowing beautifully. So, all right, so education, inspiration, and motivation. Motivation would be, really finally get clarity on why you want to go on a plant-based diet. Make a list. Make a list of all of the symptoms that you'd like to overcome, all of the conditions that you have, all of the medications that you'd like to get off. Make a list of all of the things that you ever wanted to do in your life, but you've been held back because of poor health. Make a list of the people that you want to inspire. I know that when I first got started, I really wanted to inspire my children. I really wanted them to look at me and go, wow, look what my mom is doing. That is so cool. And she's so cool. No, but I wanted them to look at me and see that, I took a very ill body, a very dying body, and turned my whole life around when I regained my health, so that would be inspiration to them, so that they, could maybe one day do the same thing. I mean, I hope they won't get as sick as I did before they, hit rock bottom and come to that. And my daughter is vegan, so she's already made that. I already inspired her. And I have, I actually, between my husband and I, we have 4 children, and 2 of them are vegan. And my stepdaughter and her husband both are vegan. Well, I don't know if she's watching this or not, so I'll just clarify. They have been vegan for a couple of years now, and they have just recently started to reintroduce a couple of animal foods. So they're not strict vegans, but they're very close to it. And that's, to me, the closer you can get to it, even if you can't do it 100%, I mean, that's better than nothing. If you're getting in more healthy food than you used to eat, and less, animal foods and junk foods than you used to eat, then that's better. That's better. Okay. So find out what your motivation is. Really get in touch with what your motivation is. And then on those days when you are struggling, when you do have those roadblocks, you can reconnect with that. Reconnect with why you're doing this. When you're standing in front of the ice cream at the grocery store, or you're at that potluck, and there's nothing really here for you to eat, or you're at that restaurant with friends and there's just not anything really exciting on the menu at that particular restaurant, and you're face to face with those challenges. That's when you need to connect with your why, connect with your motivation. Why am I even doing this diet? Is it important? How important is my health to me? Like on a scale from 1 to 10, how important is this goal of achieving better health to you? It's really important, isn't it? It's really important. So reconnect with that motivation. It really clearly understand what your motivation is, why you want to go on this diet in the first place. Okay, so let's just go through these books. And again, I'm not going to link these, so write them down. These are all wonderful books. I have about 20 more of these in the back. I just picked out my absolute favorites. So at the very top of the pile is actually my very favorite book, and one that I would recommend if you're going to buy one book out of all of these. And you don't even have to buy it. You can go directly to the website, where this particular man has tons of information and recipes, inspiration as well, because he has tons and tons and tons and tons of testimonials on his website of people who went on a plant-based diet and they share how it's changed their life. So that is The Starch Solution by Dr. John McDougall. I know it's all reversed. This is The Starch Solution, which might sound like a strange title because a lot of people think starch is a bad thing. Especially if they're diabetic or they have candida, some of these different issues. Maybe yes, maybe no, but a lot of people have been surprised on this diet to find that diabetes, for example, is people cure their diabetes on his diet. And he explains in here why that is, why a diet high in carbohydrate will cure diabetes. High in carbohydrate, low in fat will cure diabetes, not just manage it. So when you're on a low carbohydrate diet, you're just eliminating that sugar that can no longer push into the cells because of insulin resistance. The reason that sugar can't push into the cells, which it's supposed to, that's how we get energy, the reason it can't push into the cells is because the cell is so gummed up with fat, because you're eating a diet high in dietary fat. So that's why a low carbohydrate diet, or the traditional diabetes diet, will help you manage your diabetes. You take out, all of those sugars, and you don't have all of that sugar in the blood anymore, okay? But if you can take out the gum in the cell, take out what's gumming up the cell, which is the lipids, the fats that are from the food that you're eating, from the typical standard American diet, then the sugar can start to push back into the cell again like it's supposed to, okay? So a plant-based diet is by default low in fat, okay? Because you're taking out junk foods, you're taking out animal foods, and I'm talking about a whole foods, plant-based, vegan diet. And so it's going to be by default low in fat. So now the cells of your body can start to rid themselves of all that extra, all those extra fats that aren't supposed to be there. And that's not me. Some people say, oh, she's afraid of fat. I'm not afraid of fat. It's just that when your body has too much fat in it, the cells start to overflow, and then you get fat around your organs, you get fat in your arteries, you get fat in your lymph, you get fat in your muscle cells, and that's too much fat. It's too much. So one last time, the Starch Solution by Dr. John McDougall. You can go to his website as well, and again, there's tons of free content there if you can't afford the book. But this is great. I mean, I've read this book several times. I've bought several copies of this and given it away to people. I think it's fantastic. This next one is called Proteinaholic, and it's by Dr. Garth Davis. And he doesn't have a website, but he's actually a bariatric surgeon who used to promote and recommend low-carb diets, paleo diets, that sort of thing. And now he's done a complete reversal. Now he promotes plant-based diets to his patients, and many of them don't even end up not even needing the surgery. That gives you an idea what kind of guy he is. And there's a lot of great information in this book. There are a few recipes, and he does live videos occasionally on Facebook. So make sure you follow him on Facebook or Instagram. And he is all about the science. This man is all about the science. In fact, I've heard him say a number of times, until the science says otherwise, I'm going to stick to a plant-based diet. And I think that's great. I think we need people like that. Personally, I kind of have the opposite stance, and that is until I feel otherwise, I'm going to stick to a plant-based diet. For me, I love looking into the science, love hearing about the science, but for me, it's all about how I feel. And this diet has completely revolutionized my life in so many different ways besides just my health. It started with the health, and then it went into fitness. I had a period of time where I was really into exercise. I've taken that off over this summer and the last year. I still ride my bike and go for walks, but I've not been going to the gym. I've not been running, that kind of a thing. So it revolutionized kind of my fitness life, and then it revolutionized my career. So it really just changed my life, just simply going on a diet. So check him out. This next one is by Dr. Michael Greger. This is the How Not To Die Cookbook. His first book is actually called How Not To Die, and they came out with this cookbook, and I think he's got another book that's soon to be released. But Dr. Michael Greger, he's all about the science. He actually has a YouTube channel called nutritionfacts.org. So if you haven't heard of that or checked that out yet, you want to make sure and do so if you're really into hearing what the science, what the research has to say to support this diet. What Dr. McDougall does, or Dr. Greger does, is when a study comes out that pertains to nutrition, particularly plant-based nutrition, he does a summary on it on his channel, a short little video about the study. And so there's tons of information there on his site if you have a question about diabetes, if you have a question about fibromyalgia, if you have a question about rheumatoid arthritis, whatever it is, you can type it into the search bar and see if he's done a summary about any of the research that's been done on studying the implications of plant-based nutrition on that particular condition. Really good channel. I like this cookbook. It's got a lot of beautiful pictures in it. His recipes are super duper healthy though, which means they're not always, I find myself tweaking them from time to time just to make them taste a little bit better. But all in all, I'd say most of the recipes that I've tried in here are really, really good. So that's How Not To Die. This next one is Dr. Neal Barnard's program for reversing diabetes. Dr. Neal Barnard is the president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And this book talks all about what I briefly started talking about earlier about diabetes and the research that's been done to show that the cause of diabetes is actually gummed up cells in the muscles because of a diet high in fat. There's the fancy word for it is called intramyocellular lipids. Those are the fats that end up in the cells of the muscles. And they literally, I mean, if you think about fat, just like when you wash your dishes in your sink and you've got all the fat on the pots and pans, it's sticky, right? And you have to kind of scrub it, you have to emulsify, you have to squeeze the, the Dawn dish liquid on there in order to get all that fat out, right? And then if you're not careful, it can jam up your pipes underneath your sink. So fat, it's sticky and it clogs things, right? And so if you think of it that way, it makes perfect sense. If it gets in the cells and it gums up those cells, and then the sugar comes along with the insulin, that's the job of the insulin, is to push that sugar into the cells so that we can have energy. It can't do it because it can't. That's what insulin resistance basically is. It's the resistance of that insulin pushing the sugar into the cell. And so these, this and the Starch Solution and all of these doctors that I follow, they recommend plant-based nutrition for type 2 diabetes, not the standard diabetes, like, what is it, the National Diabetes Association for Diabetes diet. They recommend plant-based nutrition to cure diabetes. They call it reversing diabetes because it's not a cure. A cure is when you're cured of something and it's out of your body and it'll never come back. You could go on this diet for a year and cure your diabetes and then go back to eating the way you ate before, and the diabetes would most likely come back because you have that predisposition for it. Just like I talk about with hiatal hernia. You can reverse your hiatal hernia by, addressing your constipation, addressing your bloating, moving your stomach down, breaking peritoneal adhesions, strengthening your diaphragm, but then go right back to how you were living before. Let your diaphragm get weak, let your stomach get pushed back up, bloating, constipation, all of that stuff. And you're going to have a predisposition or more, of a likelihood to re-herniate since you had that hernia before. Well, it's the same thing with type 2 diabetes. You've got to adhere to this style of eating for life, and that's why it's so important to educate, get that inspiration and get that motivation, because once you've done this for a year or two, it's just going to be the way you eat, and you're not really going to need daily inspiration anymore to keep you adhered to the diet. When I first started, I really enjoyed going on YouTube every single day. I would jump on my treadmill and have my phone there and watch a YouTube video. These are great. These are wireless headphones. These are great, like when you're in the gym and you want to, watch something online. Or if you're going for a run or something, or a walk or a bike ride or something like that. But yeah, it's after you've done it for a period of time, it just becomes your new norm. So that's another thing that I was really worried about when I started looking into plant-based nutrition. It's like, well, maybe I could do it for a month or a couple months, maybe even 6 months, but then when could I go back? When could I go back to eating the way I ate before? I was really concerned about that. That's why it's so important to educate yourself about other impacts of your diet, how eating this way really has a much bigger effect than just your health, All right, so that's Dr. Neal Barnard's program for reversing diabetes, and these all can be found on Amazon. So these next two books are the Forks Over Knives. I actually have two of these. Forks Over Knives. So this is the companion book that came with the movie when it first came out, or documentary, and this is one of the cookbooks. They've done several of them. So Forks Over Knives is a fantastic resource for people getting started. So there's a documentary that really was kind of one of the initial things that sparked my whole understanding of this plant-based diet notion, and that could, heal the body. Not just focus on, a sore joint or, poor breathing or whatever, but heal the body. And I really didn't believe it could be done. Like I said, I had chronic allergies and asthma. I used to keep, oh, it's put away. I used to take like 5 different prescription medications daily. Steroid inhalers, fast-acting inhalers, allergy pills, eye drops, nasal sprays for my allergies and my asthma. And I was puffing on that fast-acting inhaler multiple times a day for years and years and years and years, as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. Now, I haven't taken those pills for 5 years. Those inhalers, none of it. Eye drops, nasal sprays, none of it. It is a miracle. Like, that's how I see it. I never, if you would have told me 5 years ago that, yeah, you could just change your diet and no longer have allergies and asthma. And again, if I were to go back to eating the way I ate before, all of that allergies and asthma stuff would come back. It would come back. I still have allergies and asthma. There's just nowhere near as severe. I'm symptom free. I'm symptom free today. So anyway, getting back to Forks Over Knives, watch the documentary. That's step 1. Their website has, again, inspiration, recipes, testimonials, education. And I believe, unless they've changed it, I believe they have like kind of a free program where they have limited recipes on their website, or you can sign up for like a, I don't know, like a monthly plan where they'll send, where you have more access to more recipes, something like that. I've been on their site for a long time, so you'll have to look into that. But it's a great resource. It's extremely comprehensive, just tons and tons of information there. But check out the documentary. That's a really great place to start. And then, you know, you can go on Amazon and see what kind of books they have. These are, you know, cookbooks, not a whole lot of pictures, but great recipes, just great recipes. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. So when I started this video, I mentioned that I was really surprised when I went on a plant-based diet because I thought it was going to be too hard. I thought it was going to be extreme. It's really as simple as you have to learn how to cook in a little bit different way. You shop differently. Like, I go directly into the produce department, and that's pretty much, you know, that's pretty much the only place I shop. If I need a few condiments, you know, I might go elsewhere. Vinegars, you know, for the most part, I just shop in the produce aisle. So right there, it makes life easier. You're just in one section of the store. You know, most times when I go in, people think it's more expensive to eat this way. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Some of your cheapest foods are vegan foods, like, you know, grains, rice, pasta, potatoes, beans, bananas, things like this. I try to buy fruit when it's on sale, so I usually go in and look and see what the deals are, and I buy those things. So I don't, I apologize, we have a weak connection. Hopefully it'll snap out of it. So yeah, but I eat a lot of potatoes, a lot of rice, I eat pasta. I've been eating a lot of green salads lately, which I haven't done in the past, but I recently discovered a recipe for a homemade salad dressing that I particularly love. And so I've kind of developed my own perfect salad, which isn't going to be perfect for everybody. My mom tried the salad dressing, and she didn't care for it. And to her, a salad without raw onions isn't a salad. To me, a salad with raw onions is not even edible. I hate raw onions. So, you know, everybody's got to create their own perfect salad. But yeah, you learn how to shop differently. You learn how to cook differently. You learn when you go into a restaurant, maybe check the menu online before you go in. Make sure they've got options. I don't have any trouble eating at restaurants, although, you know, it's usually very oily and very salty. but it's plant-based. So for those of you who have, you know, reflux, you know, makes it a little bit more difficult. And I will announce that I am working on, I don't have it here, I am working on my own cookbook. It's actually just about done. I don't know why I'm putting off launching it, but they are plant-based recipes that have no common trigger foods in them for reflux, which is really challenging because when you start taking out tomatoes and vinegars and citrus and garlic and onions, and some of your staple flavors in dishes. It does make it challenging, but it's doable. It's doable. So I am working on that cookbook. So that'll be available. I don't know when. Actually, I was hoping to launch it at the end of this month, but I'm gonna have to really get my act together if I want to meet that deadline. I've had some things come up recently, and so I've kind of gotten sidetracked. But anyway, all right. So I hope that's been helpful. You guys make sure to post your comments and your questions in the feed below, and I might do a follow-up live Q&A and address your question. You can also follow me on YouTube under the avatar Wonder Vegan, where I copy this content over to that channel. So it is the same content, but for some people they find it easier to navigate my channel over there as opposed to Facebook. So, all right, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.